First of all, I'd just like to thank Maris and Enterprise Estonia for the opportunity to share some information with you today, which I hope will be somewhat useful for your first and hopefully not your last ITT response. It was quite an interesting process for me myself to put these together because I've never done that before. I've been working, a little bit about me. So my role within Logica is the space account manager in Germany. So my life is living this. I spend most of my life in EMITS talking to people or building response teams to ITTs. So I hope I can share a good volume of that information today, so that you take some value away from the time you're putting into this over the course of the day. So prior to that, I was a solution architect within the organisation. So for several years prior to my sales career, I was in fact leading technical responses to ITTs. I'm very fortunate that I have an exceptionally good team in different parts of Europe, and I probably bid somewhere in the order of 50 to 60 ITT responses. Now I've given up counting, with a very good success ratio. There is a lot to learn, from the process. Some parts will be quite intensive today, and there's also some hands-on exercises because it will just help you think a little bit about how you task yourself with responding to the questions, and some things generally people miss. I have a very long space background, more than 10 years now. I'm also fortunate enough to represent the UK Space Agency at CCSDS, which is the standardization committee for cross support, and on top of that I also represent Eurospace at European Harmonization for Ground Segment Systems, which is my particular background. So I guess we can begin now with the first session. We're aware that you're heading towards your first ITT response out of EMITS. So the first session is to give you a bit of a feeler for how this works. Some of the things you probably should start to do now. In fact, if your response is in November, there are a couple of activities you'll probably want to do now, really. So how to identify opportunity, how to look at whether or not you should partner, how to review an opportunity, and what happens at the stage of arrival of the opportunity. Yeah? There's probably some information here which will be valuable beyond. What I wanted to do is also bring you some value beyond the PECS program. Yeah, because in a couple of years' time you're going to be a member state, and therefore being prepared for that, and particularly like over the next couple of years starting to refine your processes of dealing with bid response is a good thing to do. So there's some interesting information there for that. Okay, simply put, EMITS is a web-based tool in which ESA use to put all their procurements through. Any additional programs, things like EMITS, even Logica uses this for running frame contracts on behalf of ESA. So there are multiple entities that use this site. The first time you look at this website, it will be ESA opportunity, and there are some things you have to do to find the others. So essentially it hosts all the competitive ITTs. You can use this tool to do things like declare interest in an ITT, have a look who else is interested in a given ITT, and I'll come to that. And you can find things like the general conditions of tender, the financial forms that you will typically use to provide your financial data for a response. We'll have the fun of going through some financial forms a bit later on and how they're put together. So essentially EMITS is the core procurement tool for ESA, and a large number of other entities as well, particularly when they're related to ESA programs. So registration. In order to get any document out of EMITS, you need to be registered. If you're not registered, you will not be able to get them. You'll be able to see the opportunity and a top-level overview of it, but you will not be able to get the ITT tender pack. In the case of the up-and-coming proposals, the likelihood is that the PECS proposals will not be seen by anyone else who's in EMITS, because it'll be done purely by your registration country. So if you're not registered from that country, you simply won't see the opportunity at all. So yeah, from today I would say the first thing you should do is start that process. It's relatively easy to begin this process. Yeah? So if you go to EMITS, you'll find at the top a button to click, which will ask you a few primitive pieces of information. You will later need to supply additional pieces of information, financial and various other things. So whilst it's a relatively straightforward process, it can take a little bit of time to gather the necessary information that they'll require. So if November is your deadline, begin now, is my advice. So ESA in general awards a number of types of contracts. So we've got study contracts, research and development contracts, major development contracts, which we're talking about spacecraft procurement or ground station procurement, and frame contracts. A frame contract is typically where 3 or 4, or however many ESA decide should be within the frame, will bid for work orders within the frame over a fixed duration of contract. So typically this is 3 to 5 years, something of this length. And maybe 3 or 4 bodies would be picked, and during that period you're the only ones that can compete. So it's kind of a closed market, and it tends to be good for ESA to build industrial capability within a competitive environment over a set number of years. If we're looking for a major development, then this is normally split over several phases, and you'll typically see these, them refer to things as phase A, phase B. So what do these things mean? In general, so a phase A is an early stage feasibility study. So for example, if they're looking at a mission development, they'll probe away, is this possible, how much will it cost? And from that information decide whether or not it's something they'll take forward. So they might take more phase A's forward than they will actually go into operations with. Then you've got a system design at phase B. Phase C will see the development of these activities, manufacturing if we're talking about satellite development. And then phase E is moving into an operational phase, so maintenance or operational teams. Procurement rules. So one of the prime areas that ESA will be interested in is technical quality. They are essentially a technical organisation, and it's one of their prime focuses. So they will look for very strong technical responses to a given ITT. So you need to be very clear on what you're proposing and justify it. One thing that ESA tends to like is very clear justification for choices. A logical approach to response. The technical proposal will be evaluated in very careful detail, usually by experts in that given field. And they will monitor the technical quality over a period of time. There are a number of standards that are applicable to ESA. I guess you're aware of ECSS, the European standardization, yeah? So make yourself aware of these types of standards, particularly in the engineering methodology. ESA has a fairness policy towards selection of winning tenders. So they appoint a specific TEB to evaluate the response. This will contain not only technical experts in that field, but will also contain legal and contractual people, management. They will look for an overall rounded offer. Yeah? Your technical response can be brilliant, but if your management around that looks poor, doesn't look like you could deliver that, and clear about how you would schedule this, what milestones you'd put in place, how you'd monitor that, what kind of quality approach you're applying, then you'll still likely fail. So they'll look for a balance of these aspects. Yeah, and there is some information on this criteria later. This team, when it's brought together, does not report to its usual line management. It reports purely to the TEB, and it will make a recommendation in the end. So essentially, the TEB evaluates, ranks, and recommends the winner. Well, in this case, it may be several, yeah, because there is a budget, so a number of opportunities will probably be recommended. Cost. Yes, cost is a factor to ESA, but they will look for essentially for best value. So it's a balance. You can have a very, very low cost offer, but clearly technically, on the management side or the technical approach, it doesn't add up. This is not something ESA would pick. Yeah? They would look for a balance of overall good technical capability mixed with solid management plus good pricing. So whilst it's not a core factor, it is something you should be looking at. You should be pushing that always. So ESA also operates an industrial policy, because there are many countries that are providing funding to ESA as member states, and ESA manage this through geo-return. So they look to make sure that a country that is working with ESA gets its industry to evolve around that. But that's partially also the responsibility of the country to make sure that that's being done as they're looking at programme and what need is. One of their main roles within this is, of course, to help to develop European industrial capabilities, to make sure that we can not only compete within Europe but also on the world market. And ESA, of course, gets the benefit of some competition across the member states. Okay, so I'll point out one thing, which is that over the next couple of years we will see EMITS change. I understand that this is going on at the moment because the EMITS tool you see today is a few years old now, well, quite some years old. So it's a little clunky at times. But what I'm trying to point out here is that when you come into ESA, into EMITS, sorry, you don't need to log in to get a general feel of what opportunities are coming or what opportunities are current. You'll see more detail if you log in, but if you just want a quick scan, then you can do so without. And you'll find these down there in the intended list. So if it's not there already, sometime in the next few weeks, I suspect, you're going to see this arrive in the intended list. Yeah? So make yourself aware of the tool. Go there, even if you're not registered. You can still move around quite a few of the pages. Get a feel for the tool. It's not very complicated. It's quite a simple tool. But as I said, there are some caveats in it. It's a little clunky at times, but I'll come into those in a moment. So here's one area where it's a little clunky at the moment. Is on the different entities. So today you cannot get a single overview of all the opportunities that are in EMITS. You can only do this by entity. So you literally have to step through each of the entities and see what procurements they have available. You'll get used to the ones where you generally tend to see tenders coming out. Yeah, the big organisations like Thales or Astrium, OHB. Or if you're aware of programs that are going on, you'll know the organisations that are involved. I don't know whether they'll fix this in the next revision of EMITS. I do hope so, because it would be a beneficial feature. You won't be able to do. Yeah, you should be able to do that actually when you're not registered. So you can, just feel it out, try it. Yeah. When you step into a given opportunity, at the bottom of the page you'll find a link to registered interested parties, essentially, and you can click on that, and you can then see a list of entities that are interested in the same opportunity. Now, you usually have to think quite carefully about your own registration, yeah, because of course as soon as you register on there, people know that either you're likely to bid or you're going to be somewhere. Yeah? So that, it depends a little bit where you are in your business development, to be honest. So yeah, but it can be an interesting tool if you're looking for partners, and then it can be an interesting place to try to identify if there's someone there who perhaps you should call and make contact with and just see what their interests are. Okay, so just some review. I mean, not so applicable now in the EMITS light, in the PECS light, because you know it's coming in November. You know that you've got a fixed time, and probably if there's another tranche, you'll be informed well before of that. And ESA will also notify you when you're a registered member of that system. So it's very, very important to monitor EMITS, if not daily, every few days, I would say. If you're a registered user, then you'll get notifications, but notifications only when the opportunity is released. So at that point, I'm afraid your business development's just run out of luck, because you simply will not, ESA will not talk to you at that point in time. Yeah? They have a very fixed process around when they can talk about an opportunity and when not. And as soon as an opportunity is agreed, the documentation pack is agreed, they will stop to engage with industry. So it's a lot hard. All I'm saying is it's a lot harder at that point in time. So it's much better to be aware of the opportunity itself. So one key thing to do, or to make yourself aware of, is the events that ESA run. There's an awful lot of different types of events depending on your particular specialist need. So if you're in Earth observation, or you're in ground segment systems, or simulation, or some other specialization, you'll find many, many events. So go to the ESA website, make yourself familiar. Networking is a very, very powerful tool in this industry, because it tends to be the same players for a long period of time. So it's good to build relationships. So talk to partners, both with, currently within the PECS build-up. Talk to your partners within Estonia. Look to speak to organisations that you can see that you may be able to collaborate and build a proposition together that's more valuable than if you try to attempt this separately. Talk to ESA. Talk to the contracts people. Talk to the technical officers responsible. Normally on EMITS, they'll be identified. Usually it's the technical responsible when it's an opportunity, and when it's released it will be the contractual point of contact, because no more industrial conversations can occur at that point. And talk to your delegation. They're very good points of contact. Over periods of time they'll build good networks into ESA. There's a lot of good information that can come from your IPC delegate. EMITS is a good tool for identifying some of the opportunities, but it doesn't make business. What makes business is talking to other players, understanding what's going on within programs within ESA, where are they going. Engage with them. They're usually very, very open to conversation, particularly when you've got some experience in that area. They'll talk very technically with you. This will help you to model a proposition which is valuable for them and for you. Okay, so what will happen now for this first round is that you've taken a time, you've registered yourself as an entity. The opportunity moves from being an opportunity to being now a tender. You will get an email from them saying, hey, this is now arrived, come and have a look. And then now you'll be able to see the formal documents, the statement of work, the terms and conditions, draft contract, etc., etc. If you're not registered, you won't see that, and you won't get any notification. So, ESA timescales can be tight, typically 4 weeks, 6 weeks, max 8 weeks if it's a very, very, very big tender, several million or more. That's not a lot of time when you need to build a team, when you need to prepare, the in and out of your response. 4 weeks is tough. You will be very busy. So that's a very good reason to register now. Yeah? You don't want to delay. You want to be informed. You certainly don't want to find out 5 days after it's been released, because that will cause you somewhat a painful, long night experience. Once the opportunity has been identified and you've received the email, you can go to the website and you will be provided with the documents. So that what will happen then is when you click on that opportunity page, you'll come to this summary page, which has always been there. Yeah, this is, you would have seen up to here on the opportunity list for a while, just giving you an overview of what the work is about. And there you'll find the list of the documents, and there'll be some options to download this as a zip file or send it to your email account and various other things. Any clarifications raised during the formal process, and you can raise a clarification at that point, which is, I know, there's something in the statement of work doesn't make sense, or some condition in the contract which you don't understand, or something else. So read the documents carefully. If you've got a clarification, raise it. It just has to go through a formal process at this point. You just can't talk to the technical officer, even though you might know them. Yeah, they'll just tell you, sorry, I cannot communicate with you now. And you'll find these here then. Essentially, they'll come via email, notifications that a new clarification has arrived, and you should go to there and read it. There's nothing worse than, you're a week before the end, and you get a clarification, nobody's read it, you go there and it changes something. Even worse if it affects some kind of subcontract relationship, yeah, that determines price. Now you've got a real problem, because you've not got long to fix it. So what to expect typically in the ITT documentation pack. So you'll have a cover letter, which explains a bit around the process, maybe some specifics of how they want you to respond. The statement of work, which is essentially what they want you to do. The tender conditions, and a draft contract. When these arrive, or when you get them, there are some steps. Typically, if you've got technical people doing this, they ignore the cover letter, ignore the terms and conditions, and ignore the contract. They go straight to the work, because those other things are not very interesting. Be very, very careful doing that. And in fact, don't. The cover letter and the terms and conditions are vital documents. Ensure you read those very, very, very thoroughly, because you can fail if you don't. The draft contract, as soon as you've got that, and the general conditions, get them in front of your commercial people as quickly as possible, or any legal representative that you have. Understand the conditions of which you're under, because you will be expected to sign that contract. So clearly, you need to understand what your responsibilities are. I can't stress it enough that the terms and conditions, the STC document, it'll probably be labelled something like TC, will specify a lot of how they want you to respond. In essence, we often refer to this document as the exam question. So failing to understand what they're asking you to do, clearly it could end up in a fatal bid and a waste of a lot of effort and money. So be careful, yeah? Read them. If you've got technical people involved, okay, push them the statement of work and deal with the cover letter and your tender conditions yourself. But do not ignore them. These probably won't apply in this particular case, but just to be aware of them. There are some particular procurement clauses ESA will put with a given opportunity, and they classify them here. You'll see this with the opportunity, so you'll always be able to see what type of procurement is being applied here. So essentially a C1 activity, I guess I should probably explain what LSI is. So LSI is a large system integrator. These are not big software companies like Logica. They are indeed the primes, yeah? So the Thales, the OHB, the Astriums of this world. They are what's referred to as the LSIs. So a C1 activity means no profit, basically. So that, do not be doing a deal with Thales or Astrium on those, because they're going to end up in the bin. C2, they do not restrict primes from bidding, but they're not favoured. And usually primes tend to have a good knowledge whether or not their bid will be well received. Yeah. So if you are, if you do have relationships with these types of organisations, ask them. They will be, in general, very honest about it, or they can inquire. Yeah. So C3 activities refers to small, medium enterprises and research and development companies, and activities with subcontracts to SMEs. ESA does have some initiatives for SME organisations, so once you're moved towards member state, it's a good idea to start to build those networks, yeah, because they're always very, very encouraging for small companies. They want to see capability grown. So what I'm trying to drive at here is engage with ESA, make them aware, send them emails. If they've got SME initiatives going on, take part in them. Don't sit back, engage. ESA is one of these organisations where networks help an awful lot. So you'll get to meet people from different parts of ESA, get engaged with the primes, make them aware you're SME, make contact. So some things on this page about, again, assessing the ITT, but also, I don't know if you can see it at the bottom here, but there's a little button there to do with expressing your interest in this particular ITT. And if you click this, you'll be in this list you saw earlier on. That's default action, yeah? But you should think about whether or not you want to do that, depending on, if you're extremely well positioned, you've built your consortium already, you don't really want to be doing that. Okay, so in summary, review EMITS frequently. Yeah, in this particular case, because you're moving towards a PECS program, the most important thing is to register, really. Make us, put yourself in the system, be notified when things are happening, rather than having to chase that. Yeah? Do a lot of research. Understand the programs ESA are involved in. Network, talk to people. Most people in account management and almost any organisation I know are more than happy to pick the phone up and understand, because like anything in life, you never know when that contact's going to be useful. If they've got some capability that you don't have, you can shape something with that, but only if you know. Use the internet, look inside the programs ESA are running, look wider than that. Talk to your delegation. Talk to business partners that you have already, perhaps. Communicate your interest in opportunity. If you know something is coming or you're looking to build, understand your capability and make that aware to people. Respond to the invitations. Don't ignore them, because if you might have a great idea, but of course not be registered and just fail to be even aware to respond. Work closely with partners, build relationships up over the next few years, because they will count. ESA looks very hard at ITT responses and who's involved. What kind of capabilities they have, what's the relationship, what's the value of that. If you, on the clarification front, if you have a specific question, raise it formally. But my advice is to try and do that early. Try and talk through some of the issues beforehand. So find out who the technical officers responsible are, give them a call. Explain your interest and capability and why you're calling them, and ask them, what they're looking for out of this activity. So don't be frightened to call and engage, because that really will be one of the critical factors of success in the end. There are many organisations who will simply just submit an ITT, a response, and never talk to anyone. Their chances, that those who engage and those who don't, their chances are several-fold. Okay. It's the end of the EMITS discussion. Does anyone have any questions? I think it would be good to have a bit of a Q&A session.
If the registered user have downloaded the document package, is some receive this document package? They are one potential
No.
tender, or no?
No. So in the cover letter, sometimes they will state what that process will be, and it can vary. So it may be that you will need to fax or email within 5 days of downloading the pack that you are intending to respond to the proposal. Sometimes they don't ask for that. So it's just another point, you know, make yourself aware of what the cover letter is asking you to do. That and the TCs are, you can miss an awful lot if you ignore those parts of the response. And they're not always the same, so don't be fooled into getting into a habit of how they've asked you once and thinking it's the same. Because sometimes they'll add something else in, or they want it a particular different way. It depends very much on the department that's issuing that, and they're commercial people. Be thorough. Any other questions? No? Is there anything there anyone didn't quite understand or wants to repeat, or? I understand I'm a native speaker, so there may well be some points that are easy for me, but you know, clearly I'm aware not everyone here is a native, so if there is some parts, you know, someone didn't get, please raise your hand, because no?
Everything's clear.
Okay. I am
Just
amazed.
the presentation was so good that everybody understood.
Thank you.
Well, I would still ask, I'm representing the company Marathon, who is dealing with technology development which evaluates the biomechanical properties and tone of skeletal muscles. And I wonder whether we can search, for example, the health, like a search word, through all the tenders. Would that be possible?
No.
No.
They don't have. In its current life, it doesn't have that capability.
Okay.
That would be a dream.
So we have to go through.
Unfortunately, yes. I mean, you can. There are two challenges. One is that the list itself doesn't give you the detail. It only gives you the first. If I come back, I'll show you. Okay, so when you see be wary of this word global list as well, because it's not global, it just means ESA list, or Logica list, or Astria list.
Of the entity.
Yeah, of the given entity. See, you'll only see the title. Any detail, like for example an overview, you'd have to step inside. I mean, you could develop a tool that, you know, crawl that. But in its current light, EMITS does not provide that capability. So it is a bit painful. But I mean, I understand that there is a procurement out at the moment to revitalise and upgrade. I mean, this has been around quite some time, really. So they're going through that process now. But it will probably be a couple of years before that's in operations.
Sorry, I noticed that there is by keyword chance just under the red.
Yeah.
So what does that mean?
Well, it'll pick up some keywords from from the name, basically. So. Yeah, but you'll still have to crawl through them all.
Okay.
You know, there's no, can I type my search in here and I'll get an answer to that? No, unfortunately not. The alternatives is when you move, well, it's not really. The way to do it might be if you are aware which directorate that's coming out of, or which is responsible for that particular field that you're interested in. You can walk the directorate list. But sometimes directorates are quite encompassing. So you still end up with like 250 items in there. So it can be a bit of an issue, yeah. So as I said, it's a little clunky. So you'll just get used to it. Alternatively, once you put it up on the page, you can do a standard filter, but only if it's part of the name.
Okay.
But you can look by, the way to do it would be to look by date, yeah? Once you've built your first list of things, then you can look by date and see what's been added over the last, you know, few weeks or whatever it is that you've last been there. That's why if you're frequently in there every couple of days, it's, you know, you remember the last, it's in an ordered, so you'll notice which ones have arrived and whether or not they're applicable to you. But after a while, you will, you'll know. Because if you're talking to them, they'll make you aware that there's opportunities within there. If you're inside of a frame, they'll typically give you a list of what's expected over a period of time. You know, the next year. It's not always perfect, but they do provide that information. Hence why networking is also very good, yeah. Because sometimes an opportunity can be quite last minute coming on you. You know, maybe with only a few weeks to go. You know, before it gets made a public procurement. Which isn't, you know, if it's a small job, okay, that might be sufficient time. But if it's large, you know, say circa more than $500,000, that you might be struggling to get a position at that point, because you want to understand who the players in that particular field are, and talk to them, yeah, make them aware what kind of capability you have, and try to position yourself within a consortium. Unless you intend to prime a response, in which case I'll come to that in the next section. So yeah, I mean, spend some time, you know, spend a couple of hours and just walk through it. It's really not a complex tool at all. It's just not, the capabilities, you know, could be improved. But they are aware of that and trying to do something with it now.
Have you suggested Logica to do this?
Oh no, because it's once they're picking a product company actually, who has, you know, basically the kind of technology already. Yeah, but we thought about it.
Thank you.
I mean, I'll be around over lunch and, you know, through any sessions if anyone wants, you know, sometimes it's just nicer if you want a personal question or whatever answered than just approach, yeah. More than happy to answer any questions that you have. Yeah, feel free.
I guess we have a 15-minute break now, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Okay.